Can you hear me? Okay, so I'm sure you're all familiar with the standard reaction when we tell people that we're English majors. It goes a little something like this. Oh, that's really cool. So what do you plan on doing with that? More like, what don't we plan on doing with that? Make your way into any English classroom at Duke, and you'll find future doctors, lawyers, consultants, engineers, politicians. At least that's what I would always tell my parents every time they'd ask if I was sure majoring in English was the right choice. So that may not have been entirely true at the time, but it's definitely true now. We are going to be all of those things, and more. Yet still, the skepticism persists. What kind of job can you get with an English major? Are you going to be a teacher? Hey, can you proofread my essay and make sure I don't have any spelling or grammar mistakes? So, with respect to the time-honored English tradition of arguing with people, I'd like to spend the next few minutes offering a rebuttal to the lifetime of questions we've faced and the lifetime of questions still to come. In the style of Raymond Carver and Haruki Murakami, this is what I talk about when I talk about English. Now, there's that old saying I'm sure you've all heard that says, a liberal arts education teaches you not what to think, but how to think. Now, I don't really know what that's supposed to mean, but what I do know is that studying English has changed the way that I think. I'm sure all of us can relate to reading something that fundamentally changes how you see and interact with the world around you. From Carson McCullers and The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, who taught me to see people more complexly and to understand how people see each other, to Mohsin Hamid and The Reluctant Fundamentalist, who showed me the incessant power of nostalgia and the tendency for global conflicts to mirror personal ones, to Steve Erickson and Zeroville, who... Okay, I have no idea. I read Zeroville like 3 times and I have no clue what that book is trying to say. So maybe you didn't read Carson or Mohsin or Steve, note the use of first names, but you read somebody, many somebodies, hopefully, on your way to this moment, and I would be truly surprised if you didn't learn at least one thing that really connected with you. Now, I refer to the authors by their first names, not because I actually know them, but because on some level, I do kind of feel like I know them. They bare their hearts to all of us in their stories, and by reading them, and analyzing them, and writing about them, we can understand them. Not in the way that, like, your mother understands you, but there's a part of them in those stories, and because of that, there's a part of them that is a part of each of us too. Studying English changes the way we think because it makes us more human. Every time we read a story and think about it and write about it, the perspectives and thoughts and feelings that the authors bled into those pages become parts of our perspectives, our thoughts, our feelings. It doesn't matter that the stories aren't real because the feelings are. I'm not an elderly deaf man, but when I read The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, I understood the treachery of imagining someone to be more than a person. I'm not an immigrant living in post-9/11 New York, but when I read The Reluctant Fundamentalist, I felt the cold of being on the outside and how impossible it is to find a place in the nostalgia you don't share. Those authors and their books, and all the other ones we've read, give us the words to solidify our shared feelings, and that vocabulary becomes our vehicle for understanding the world, and more importantly, understanding each other. When we read, we expand that vocabulary, and when that happens, we become more complete people, and we're able to relate more completely. What I talk about when I talk about English is empathy. And not everyone will get it, but anyone like us, anyone who has ever picked up a book and read it and thought about it and loved it will. So yes, in our time in the English department, we've learned how to be better writers and more insightful readers and problem solvers and team players and all that stuff that gets inanely copied and pasted into every job description for every job known to man. But what we really learned, the thing that will stick with us long after we've left this place and forgotten everything we read here, is how to be a better and more empathetic person. And I hope you'll join me in thanking the English department for doing that for us. So the next time someone asks you what you plan on doing with an English major, or what kind of jobs you can get, or if you can proofread something for them, feel free to tell them what I talk about when I talk about English. Or better yet, tell them what you talk about when you talk about English. Either way, I promise, it will probably really confuse them. Thank you all very much.